On the eve of another summer vacation season, we'd like to pause and say happy birthday or happy anniversary to one of the nation's most visited parks. Congress passed legislation on June 15, 1934, providing that the 400,000-acre holding in Tennessee and North Carolina be established as a completed park for administration, protection, and maintenance, thus establishing the birth of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We are like almost all East Tennesseans, Southern Appalachians, and families who have visited the Great Mountain. The Smokies are so much more than just a national park. They have been the backdrop to nearly every favorite family memory that we can recall. My grandparents took my dad to see the new park when he was just 5 years old. That was in the early 1940s. They showed him the blighted dead chestnut trees. At one time, about 30% of the trees that were in the Smokies were American chestnut. They took him up to Newfound Gap, the place where President Roosevelt dedicated the park. At that time, the park was still just a couple decades into a recovery phase, having been nearly clear-cut as a result of the early logging operations there. My first trip to the Smokies was 2 months before I was officially born, so my visits go back further than I can actually recall. My parents took all of us kids to the Smokies frequently throughout our childhood. We visited almost annually to picnic at the chimneys and play on the slippery rocks. Later, I would take my own sons to the park as well. When I met Janet in 2000, she was set to go to graduate school in some distant state. I bragged to her that before she left, I should show her the history and natural beauty of the East Tennessee area. It turns out that my knowledge of the Smokies didn't extend beyond eye-shot distance of the car in the parking lot. Having been an avid hiker her whole life, she took me deep into the woods. After all the years of picnicking in the park, I was surprised to find a whole other world existed. A vast, green, wonderful world, sometimes less than a mile from the site of my car. She took me hiking up the Boulevard Trail to Chimney Tops, Charlie's Bunyan, Rainbow Falls, Laurel Falls, Grotto Falls, Look Rock, and Mingo Falls. We played in the water at the Y. We went to Newfound Gap at midnight to see the full moon, and we struggled up to Clingman's Dome. And of course, explored all the monts, Tremont, Smokemont, and her favorite, Elkmont. We would drive up to Sugarlands after work on Fridays to unwind and feel the earth under our feet. We developed a tradition of going to Cades Cove every New Year's Day. We poked around old cemeteries and cabins. We hiked Big Creek on the western edge and ate at Mountain Mama's, a favorite stopover for AT through hikers. We know when the trilliums are blooming in Roaring Fork, and when to expect the fireflies in Elkmont. We know that the best time to see Grotto Falls is after a week of rain. We know that our favorite time to hike is in the winter without the snakes and bugs. We learned a lot from the woods. Two of my favorite memories happened in the Great Smoky Mountains. One was Jan and I had our very first kiss on my first trip to Elkmont. The other was the last hike that my best friend T and I took up to Mount LeConte before he passed away in 2008. No one seems to stay in the same place for very long these days. Places like the Smokies take on the role of our shared ancestral home place, a place where celebrations are held and lessons are learned, families gather, and memories are made. So happy birthday, Smokies. Here's to the next 75.